Good morning and welcome to our English lesson today. It's a continuation of the previous lesson, plurals of nouns. Because it came to my attention that some of you know nouns, but you cannot come up with the plurals, or you can come up with the plurals, but in a wrong way. To preview the previous lesson, we talked about those plurals that are simply going to add an S to form those nouns that are simply going to add an S to their singular to form a plural. So we talked, if you say singular, it simply means one, and if you say plural, it simply means many. And then the most disturbing plurals are those ones that end with a Y. And I say there are two rules to follow when you are forming plurals of nouns that end with Y. And then these plurals are always common, the common nouns. Say there are different types of nouns, or you can categorize nouns just the way you want. Like, is it a plural noun? Is it a singular noun? Is it a compound noun? Or can you categorize nouns according to gender? So we say singular nouns, those ones that end with a Y, before which there is a consonant. For example, you have lady. Before it, we have a consonant, which is D. Form their plural by adding IES, and then you omit a Y. So you have lady, and the plural is going to be ladies. I'm omitting a Y, and when I omit a Y, I replace the Y with an I, and then add ES to form the plural. But there are those nouns that end with a Y, but before which there is a vowel. For example, you have boy, I have monkey, let's say I have donkey. So if I want to form the plural of these words, before which there is a vowel. So the vowels are simply A, E, and A, E, I, O, U. If you check boy, before Y we have an O, so to form its plural, you simply add an E, an S. If you look at monkey, before the Y we have an E, so to form its plural, you simply add an E, an S. If you check donkey, before the Y we have the E, so you simply add an E, add an S. You are given a noun and they want its plural. What you do, especially if the noun is ending with a Y, what you do is you simply look at the noun that you've been given and identify if before the Y you have a consonant, or you have a what? You have a vowel. And when I talk about consonants, you omit all the vowels. Like you can't begin with A, B, C, D. It should be B, C, D, F, G. So that you are omitting the A, the A, the E, the O, and then the U in your consonants. So a continuation of the previous lesson, today we are going to talk about some nouns ending with F form their plural by changing the F to a V and then adding ES. And this is very common when it comes in the exams, because everybody now assumes that if a noun ends with an F, then the F should change to a V and then it should add an ES. But we realize that there are some nouns that also end with an F, but you don't change the F to a V when you're forming its plural. Instead, you simply add an S. So I have categorized these nouns, and I'm going to give examples. So examples of nouns that end with an F, and then when you want to form its plural, you come up with a V, you change the F to a V, and then you add an ES. Example, you have leaf, the plural is leaves. So if I have this singular, then I have the plural. I'm having leaf, which is singular, and then the plural is leaves. I have changed the F to a V and then added an ES, and then added an ES. You can have wife if it is one. If you have more than one wife, then you have wives, which is you omit the F, you replace the F with a V, and then you add an ES, Then you have knife, you omit the VF, and then the plural becomes knives. You have half a bread, so you can say we had halves of breads. You omit the F and then you add what? You omit the F and then you replace the F with a V and then add ES to form its plural. But I was very categorical when I said Not all these nouns that have an F form the plural by omitting the F and adding the V to ES. Some of these nouns do not change. You simply add an S to form its plural, just like the other basic noun, girl, girls, desk, desks. You simply form the plural by adding an S. So I've also given examples of those nouns that the F does not change to a V, but if you want to form its plural, you simply add an S to the singular that you've been given. So example, I have chief, which is very common, especially when it comes in the exams. And then pupils are supposed to give the plural of chief. You realize that most of the learners are going to say chiefs with a VES, because it is embedded in our knowledge that any noun that ends with an F, the F changes to a V and then it adds an ES. The rule does not apply to all the nouns that end with an F. Some nouns ending with F do not form the plural by adding what? By replacing the F with a V and then adding ES. Some nouns that end with F simply form the plural by adding an S. So you have chief, the plural is not chiefs with a V, it should be chiefs with an F. So you simply have chief and then you add an S, just like the basic nouns, desk, desks, girl, wheelbarrow, wheelbarrows. So you have chief and then chiefs. Another one is gulf. The plural of gulf is simply gulfs. You have a handkerchief. The plural of the word handkerchief, noun handkerchief, is simply handkerchiefs. You simply add an S. But if you realize that when these nouns are brought in the exam, for example, they say, and give the plural of the underlined words, and then they have given you let's say the word is chief, then they want the plural of the underlined word, which is chief, and then they are going to give you, which is what? Chiefs with a V, because they know, most learners simply know that the F changes to a V, and then you add an ES if the noun ends with an F. But this rule does not apply to all these nouns. There are some nouns that end with an F, but do not change the F to a V. They simply add what? An S to form the plural. I have given examples. Chief, plural is chiefs. Gulf, the plural of gulf is gulfs. The plural of handkerchief is simply handkerchiefs. You add an S. You don't replace the F with a V. This is also very disturbing when it comes to exams or when it is writing composition, just like those nouns that end with a Y. You make notes and then you also write the example, so that when it comes in the exam, you are in a position to know if you are supposed to add an F, or you are supposed to add an S, or you are simply supposed to omit the F, replace it with a V, and then add ES to form its plural. And then you have number 2 of the plural of nouns. You have some nouns have the same form as singular and plural, like they don't change. You simply say, I went to the coast and saw some. On the way to coast, I saw some sheep. And then the plural of the word sheep is simply sheep. So you have some nouns do not change from the plural to the what? From singular to plural. So you have singular, and then you have what? You have plural. These nouns are same. It doesn't matter if whatever you are talking about should insinuate singularity, or if whatever you're talking about should be plural. For example, you have sheep, and then the plural is what? The plural is simply sheep. You have deer, and then the plural is what? The plural is deer. And then you also have salmon, and the plural is what? The plural is salmon. And then you have fish. The plural is what? The plural is fish. Now, how are you going to determine if it is plural or if it is singular? This is how you can use it in a sentence, so that someone can know whatever you're talking about is singular or it is plural. You can say one sheep. So you have one sheep, and then you can say many sheep. Just remember, you don't add an A, you don't add an S. The singular looks the same, like the singular is is the same as the plural. Some nouns have the same form as singular and plural. Like they do not change whether it is in singular or it is in plural. But you want somebody, maybe you are writing a composition and then you want somebody to know whatever you're talking about is singular or plural. You can come up with what? Quantifiers or determiners. Like you can say one sheep, somebody is going to know that is singular. And you can say many sheep, somebody is going to know that is what? That is plural. Just remember the noun of this, the singular of these nouns are the same, look the same as the plural. Like they do not change. You have deer and then you have deer, plural. You have salmon and then you have salmon. You have fish and then you have fish. You have fish. So you come here, if you also want to come out to show that whatever you're talking about is singular, you can say I saw one salmon in the water, and then you can form its plural by saying I saw many salmon in the water. Just remember, don't add an s, because these nouns look the same way. They do not change from their singular to plural. They look the same. Now, to have given examples, you have sheep, plural is going to be sheep. You have deer, the plural of deer is deer. You have salmon, the plural of salmon is salmon. Then you have fish, the plural of fish is what? Is fish. And then I've said, if you want to show that it is singular, you can decide to use quantifiers or determiners. Say, I saw one sheep along the way. And then you can say, I saw many sheep along the way. And then you have next, plurals of compound nouns form the plural by adding an s to the first word mentioned. If we say it is a compound noun, it is formed by more than what? By more than two words. Example of these compound nouns, we can have example, we have singular, and then we have plural. So you can have sister-in-law, and then you can have brother-in-law. You can have passerby. You can have sons-in-law. You can have sons-in-law. So you have that. You can have maid of honor. No, it doesn't have an F. You can say maid of honor. Why do we call it a compound noun? Because it is formed by more than what? By more than two words. Or by two words. Like an addition of what? An addition of what? The same way when it comes to compound adjectives, you can say, I saw a three-legged stool. Stool. He was a well-dressed man. We call them what? Compound adjectives. Like you say, I saw a well-dressed man along the way. So you have well and dressed, which has been brought together to be the adjective. So you say well-dressed, which is an adjective. We call them compound because they are formed by two words. But if you come here, we are saying compound because they are formed by an addition of what? An addition of words. You have sister-in-law, you have brother-in-law, you have passerby, you have son-in-law, maid of honor. Then I have passerby. You want to form the plural of these nouns, you simply add an s to the first word that has been mentioned. Or you base on the rules of forming plurals of what? Plurals of words. Like if the first noun mentioned should take an s, so you simply add an s. If the first word that is mentioned, you change an f to a v, then you change the f to a v. If the first noun that has been mentioned, you form the plural by adding es, then you simply add an es. What determines the plural is the first noun that has been mentioned. So for example, here you have sister-in-law. The plural of sister-in-law is going to be sisters-in-law. So I have sister-in-law, and then my plural is going to be what? Sisters-in-law. You give the plural to the first word that has been mentioned. You have brother-in-law, and then you have brothers-in-law to form its plural. You give the plural to the first word that has been mentioned. So you have brother-in-law, and then the plural of brother-in-law is simply going to be brothers-in-law. Because here I've said plurals of compound nouns form the plural by adding an s to the first word that has been mentioned. So you have brother brother-in-law, the plural of brother-in-law becomes brothers-in-law. And then you have passerby, the plural of passerby becomes passers-by, passers-by. Because if you are given this in an exam and they want you to give the plural of the word passerby, they are going to give you passerbys, and then they are also going to give you passers-by, passers-by. For example, they say give the plural of the underlined word, and then the underlined word is what? Passerby, passerby. So they give you the plural and then say A, you have B, you have C. So they are going to say A, they are going to say passerbys. Like I've seen they ask for the plural of the word sister-in-law, and then instead of saying learners saying sisters-in-law, they say sister-in-laws. So you have passerby, the passerbys, and then they are going to give you maybe B, they are going to say passers-by, passers-by. Just remember you form the plural by adding an S to the first word that has been mentioned. You have passerby, the first word that is mentioned is passer. You form the plural by adding an S to the passerby, You form what? Passers-by, passers-by. So you have passerby, the plural is going to be passers-by, passers-by. You don't say passers, passerbys. It becomes wrong, it becomes wrong. So for example, somebody has said give the plural of the word that has been underlined, and the word is sister-in-law, the word is sister-in-law. And then they want you to give the plural of the word sister-in-law, sister-in-law. You realize that maybe A, they are going to say sister-in-law, sister-in-laws. And that word sounds actually correct. You say sisters-in-law, sisters-in-laws. And you realize that most learners are going to come up with sister-in-law, in-laws. You don't give the plural to the last word that has been mentioned. Instead, you give the plural to the first word that has been mentioned. So the correct word is going to be sisters-in-law instead of sister-in-laws. You don't give the plural to the second word that has been mentioned. You give the plural to the first word that has been mentioned, which is sister. So you give the sister the plural, and then the in-law remain. So you say my sister-in-law is a beautiful tall woman. And then you say in plural you are going to say my sisters-in-law are beautiful tall women. Order of adjectives. So you say sister-in-law, the plural becomes sisters-in-law. You have son-in-law, the plural of son-in-law becomes sons-in-law. Don't say son-in-laws. Don't give the plural to the second word. I'm insisting on this because when I mark your composition, some of you say the son-in-laws of the couple. No, you say sons-in-law. You give the plural to the first word. The maid of honor. If you are writing a composition about a wedding, you will see people's writing the maid of honors. No, it is wrong. You have maid of honor, like that person who works with the what? With the bride. So you want to form the plural of maid of honor, you say maids of honor. You add an S to the first word that has been mentioned, So you have sister-in-law, the plural is sisters-in-law. Passerby, you say passers-by. You have son-in-law, you say sons-in-law. You have maid of honor, you say maids of honor. Don't say son-in-laws or passer-bys, or don't say maid of honors, you say maid of the maids of honor. And then number 4, I've said some nouns have no singular form, some have no singular form. When you're talking about subject-verb agreement, or when I talked about subject-verb agreement, I said there are those nouns that do not have the singular, or they appear the same in singular and in plural. But when you are forming subject-verb agreement, it depends with what, if they are preceded by what? A pair of, then they take a singular helping verb. But if they are simply written on their own, then they take a plural verb. So you have like glasses or spectacles. You are going to say, my spectacles are broken. You are going to say, my spectacles are broken. My spectacles are broken. So subject-verb agreement. The subject must agree with the verb so that the sentence can be correct. So you are saying, my spectacles are broken, which is correct. But if I say my pair of spectacles, My pair of spectacles is broken. My pair of spectacles is what? Broken. Why? Because before the spectacles, I have what? My pair of. What is a pair? A pair is simply one thing or two things that are together to form one. And most learners do not know, especially when it comes to shoes. You say, somebody say, my shoes is. You say, my shoes are torn. But if you want to give the point to say, my spectacles are broken. And then you are going to say in plural, their spectacles are broken. Why? Because spectacles, without being preceded by my pair of, is all through what? Plural. I'm going to say, you listen, I'm going to say, my spectacle or my scissors are sharp. My first person, possession. And if I want to give my sentence in plural, I'm going to say, their scissors are broken. You realize that I'm having R in the singular and I'm having R in the plural, unless you have a pair of. So the singular looks the same way as the plural, unless it is in subject-verb agreement. So you have examples I've given: scissors, the plural, singular, the plural is also scissor. So it is singular and plural. You have braces, singular, the plural is braces, still. You have trousers, singular, and then plural is trousers. But that is another noun that is very complicated. Some learners are going to say, my trouser is torn. It is wrong. You say, my trousers are torn, singular. In plural, you are still going to say, their trousers are torn. The noun appears the same in singular and in plural. And I'm insisting, unless it is talking about subject-verb agreement. If you have my pair of, then the helping verb changes to singular. And if you don't have my pair of, then the noun takes a plural helping verb. And then we have here, nouns ending with an O form the plural by adding an ES. But just remember, the rule does not apply to all nouns ending with an O. Some nouns ending with an O do not form the plural by adding ES. Instead, you simply add an A. You add an S. Example I've given here, cargo. The plural of cargo is cargos. You add an ES. Then you have potato. The plural of potato is potatoes. You add an EA, you add an ES. And then you have tomato. The plural of tomato is tomatoes. You add an EA, an ES. You have volcano. The plural of volcano is volcanoes. You add an EA, you add an ES. But some nouns ending with an O do not take an ES. Instead, they form the plural by simply adding an A, by simply adding an S. So you have piano, pianos. I've simply added an S. Curio, curious. You simply add an S. Then you have a bicycle dynamo. You are going to say bicycle dynamo, bicycle dynamos. You add an A, you add an S. So while you are listening or while you are taking the lesson, make sure you make the notes so that you are in a position when given an exercise to answer the questions correctly. Do have a good day.